So I got a story to tell you today. It's mind-blowing, amazing. What you see with your lying eyes is nowhere near the reality that actually exists. Never assume, never judge. Angels abound.
I am of the pure mind of God. I am the resurrection and the life in my body, my finances, my relationships, and my world. I qualify everything in my world with perfection. I am perfection. I am this perfect day, and the life that lives in me is the light that cannot fail. I accept only God's perfection, His good, in my outer circumstances. I know in my heart that God is all in all. I am absolutely not concerned about what happens, because I know wonderful things are happening now.
So I was probably about 5 miles up that way, doing my daily walk in the amazing beauty here in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. And well, my camera wouldn't work. I was going to film and I was going to go through a topic and talk, and my camera wasn't working, and I thought, well, maybe it's just not the right day to do it. So the first thing is I started having technical difficulties, glitches. And I've never had these technical difficulties before. It was a brand new thing. My electronics were glitching out. Okay, fine. I'm perfectly fine with just walking. So I'm walking. And I'm coming up the long pier, and I just go all the way up, and it's the nice sun beating off of it, and I'm looking at the water. It's peaceful, just a couple people around, and there's this biker that's coming at me, and he is hi there, he's saluting me from probably about 70 yards away. He's doing this, coming up on his bike to get my attention. I've never seen this guy walk this path every day. First time I've ever seen him. Don't know who he is. So I just, I salute, and about 2 minutes later, not even 2 minutes, probably about a minute later, he's like, hey, can I talk to you? He's back. He came from behind me on his bike. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, sure. What would you like to talk about? He says, well, I just a couple things. And I said, well, yeah, what's up, man? And he tells me, he says, you see the water out there? And I'm like, yep. He's like, those ladders that go down, they're 7 feet. The water used to be down near the bottom of those ladders. Now, you can barely see the ladder. It's like the water's rising. It's been rising. And I said, well, I guess that's interesting. Well, see, he wasn't talking literally. He was talking to me. He was talking to me on a deeper level. I can hindsight record all this now, but he looked straight at me after that, and he goes, you're not from around here. And I'm like, no. He's like, you're supposed to stay here. You're not supposed to leave. You're supposed to stay here. And I was floored, because this is what I've been entering my prayer closet with God about. And then he tells me some other things that were blowing my mind. He looks at me and he says, this is my city. It's like, we're not going to go down. He's like, we protect the city. He says, all that evil is not going to come here because we don't allow it. And I was just spellbound. I mean, at this point, I looked and I said, I completely thank you for showing up. I said, that was very, very helpful. And he nodded at me and he shook my hand and he left. And I kid you not, I literally had tears in my eyes about a few moments later, because that, to me, the ironic thing is he had the red hair and the red beard, and I've been working a lot with Saint Germain, and I've been asking. I was feeling like going to the mountain, and I was going to go in pursuit of the same, unveiled mysteries that the author had, and I wanted to meet a master in the physical. That was what my intention was. Now, as of yesterday, I decided that it was not the fastest path to my joy to go to the mountain at this particular timing. And so you could say my plans sort of adapted. So my question is did the mountain come to me? Red hair, red beard, looked to be about 25 years old. And the way that he looked through me and spoke to me, and the way that I felt with my clairsentient abilities that I've had my whole life, I cried, because I knew that I was receiving exactly what I asked for. He didn't ask any questions. He got right to the point. He told me to stay here. He said, this is where my place is. And it was, well, thank you, God. Praise you, Father. This is another one, it's chalking it up to another one. I've had so many supernatural experiences in the past few months that I am really, really just gratitude overflowing, rich in gratitude. I am rich in gratitude. I've had times in my life when I've been broke out rich, like gangster rich with money. I've been rich in fitness. I've been rich in a lot of areas, but I want to tell you that being rich in gratitude is the stuff that literally moves the mountains, and it's as if the mountain just moved itself right to me. So I'm still taking that in, by the way. So I'm going to, I guess, digress a bit now that my electronics are working. And so putting the pieces of the puzzle back together, you see, what you see is not, this is like we are in the perfect day that the Lord has created. And when we submit ourselves to that wisdom, it takes over our lives. We bring the light into our world, and it begins to bring us the fruits of that. It begins to perfect things, bring order, clarity, all these things that we're asking for. So the other thing I was doing is intending with the monatomics and things. I don't know if that's part of it, but I do know that you can have quite a bit of supernatural experiences from my own vantage point of having been there, done that for a lot of years. But all that aside, I'm not going to try to claim like I have some formula that you don't or anything like that. I'm not going to try to be that guy. I'm just saying my pursuit has been strong. I want only one thing in this world at this point. I want divine love to be perfected in every area of my life. And I want to experience the fullness of God's grace and all of the riches that are set aside for His children, so that I can leave that legacy with mine. Well, technically His children, but from the human standpoint, we want to leave a legacy for those who are watching us. Now, the technique that I've been working on is this time-space materialistic hypnotic spell that has been keeping us in tick-tock. And isn't that funny that they call it tick-tock? You see, they're putting everything in plain sight. They're just letting you know that the whole thing is like, hey, do you guys need some help with your ascension? Can we just make it any more obvious? Self-governance, not outside governance. Tick-tock, you're being mesmerized all day long. Tick, 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 right? And then also I picked up on the metronome, and that's how they did it, through timing. They adjusted timing, and they moved everything out of the now, and they moved it into the non-present awareness, which is unconsciousness. And so that's what's really going on. We're bringing that into its own 0 point. That's what this technique does, is we bring all of the unconsciousness to the 0 point. We bring it to the infinite and we collapse it. And then we do that while we're perfecting our world with divine love. That's really the secret. And it's a way to, just like if you're playing an instrument, you know, what happens when you play an instrument is you play to a metronome. And that way it conditions, see, the metronome conditions you to sequence yourself in the right timing so that you're in the pocket. You know, the flow state is living in the pocket, living in the freestyle, as I talked about. You want to live in the flow state, and that allows you to open up and access parallel realities. So what happened on the pier was the parallel reality opened up, where I got to have the asking of my heart. It showed up in the physical as I asked it to. You know, a lot of people say, wow, you know, I've met the Ascended Masters, and I go into my meditation and there they are. And I wanted to meet, I wanted that interaction through the physical. Now, I don't believe anything is actually physical, but I got what I asked for. And that did not take long. Another precipitation experience. So you'll just have to forgive me. I'm going to walk around some people walking here, and I don't want to get in their way while they're moving the children out. So, oh, you're good. How's the water today?
It's good.
Good.
Not too bad.
Nice. All right, so it's good.
Don't worry.
Oh, they're perfect.
It's okay, G. G, it's okay.
All right, so it's getting hot over by the water here. All right, what we begin with is we begin with the consciousness that is out of the present. So the beginning point of this technique is you begin when you're out of the present, when you're stuck in the tick-tock. Stuck in the tick-tock. How do you know you're stuck in the tick-tock? Because you're looking out there and you're creating time through reasoning. You're consulting your mind for questions that it doesn't have the answer to, and then it beats you up for not having the answer. So that's where you begin. So what that looks like is, it looks like someone who's playing an instrument and they have no conceptual grasp of timing. They're playing off the beat. They're just all over the place. So what we want to do is we want to bring it back into the pocket. So that's what we're doing, is we're conditioning ourselves to be back in the pocket, living in the freestyle, and correcting, stop and correct, stop and correct. So I'm going to begin with any problem state, problem conscious thing that tick-tock wants me to think about right now, my mind. Just call your mind tick-tock. That's what tick-tock is. Tick-tock is the external representation of your human mind. That's why it's about 5 seconds long, 8 seconds long. It's an out-picturing of your own human condition. And that's why it's complete insanity, because you sit there and you watch all this 8-second garbage being entertained. And that's really what the mind does, is it just sits there and entertains you, the human mind. But God's mind perfects you. So if you're caught in the trouble, we'll bring you into the perfection. I gotta try to think of something that's messed up right now, because I just had this blissful divine interaction, so now I gotta try to find a problem. You know what? That's pretty funny when you gotta try to find one. Okay, I'm gonna try to find one. All right, I got one. I do have one, actually. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna drop into the beingness of the problem. In other words, I'm going to consult my mind about the problem. As soon as you consult your mind about the problem, you enter tick-tock and you become mesmerized in the spell of time and space through materialistic hypnosis. See? You're living in the derivative. You've just stepped into the artificial matrix. So now I'm in the artificial matrix, consulting my mind about this problem, and I've got a whole series of garbage that I've picked up along the way from other people's minds and whatever. You know how that goes. Opinions, no fact. That's what it means. It means no fact. So I've got a lot of those opinions bouncing around right now. So now I'm going to do is I'm going to recognize what is correct from the sight of what God knows to be true. So just so you know, it has to do with something physical with me. Something physical. Funny that there is no physical, but I had to really look for it because I have to find it. So I step into something ignorant, my physical vessel, to find it. All right, so I got it. So what God knows to be true is that God is perfectly expressing his idea of man, and that flow of expressing harmoniously, joyfully, agelessly. See, that's what it boils down to, is timeless perfection. Timeless perfection is what God knows to be true. So now I've picked it up. I've cited what is correct in the mind of God. Now, that's my instrument. I've picked up my instrument. Now I turn on my metronome. I go into the problem consciousness, and I'm going to meditate on timeless I am. So always I am. I am timeless perfection. I am timeless perfection. So let's track it. 4 seconds. Tick. 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 Okay, so that's step one. I'm thinking about contemplating. What you contemplate, you become. I'm contemplating I am divine or timeless perfection. And I'm using the metronome to almost like biofeedback myself back into flow, out of the reasoning construct that creates the problem. I'm changing the timing. I'm getting into sync with the present. So after about 30 seconds of doing that, now I do the ABC break process. I want to get out of that mind. It is not it. Could I allow for just this moment things to be exactly as they are? Yes. Could I allow for just this moment things to be exactly as they are even more? Yes. Go to the place of peace. All right, I'm already there. So now I just bring the peace, because the feeling gets the blessing. I got to get into the harmonic vibration of peace. Okay, now I go to the solution. Now I go to the beingness of having already resolved this issue as if it were happened 5 years ago. It's just the new normal for me to be perfected. So now I assume the beingness of this space, and I vibrationally tune into it. Now that it's starting to set in, now I go back to my metronome, and I only tick every time a negative thought tries to pop in and steal this vibration from me. So I'm emerging into the world as this new frequency, and I'm going to naturally recalibrate by hearing the sound of my own self saying tick every time a negative thought comes up. So the negative thoughts essentially are causing me to become more conscious I'm using the unconsciousness to become more conscious by tracking and collecting them and bringing them into the light. I'm devouring them with light. So every time they come up, see, I'm being the solution now. I am the emerging in the world in the vibration of the perfected state out of the ABC break process. Now, as the negative thought comes up, I say in my mind or out loud, preferably in my mind so I can use the tick sound, I am timeless perfection. So now I'm walking through the world as if it's already true. It's been this way for 5 years. I am perfected already. Tick. 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 Now I bring in the color, and my color is always the golden sun, because that's the light that I use to transform all darkness into light. So I bring that color in, and that's my anchor. I anchor myself with the color. And now I'm continuing to walk through the world in that perfected state. And my timing has changed. You'll feel it. When the timing changes, when your timing changes, remember that timing change is a frequency shift. As soon as you feel the frequency shift, after you've tracked it this way, you are in a parallel world. Everything could look the same, but it's not. You're in a different world that mirrors this one, but the continuity of your past no longer exists because you've changed the present, therefore you have rewritten the past. Now this is true according to quantum physics, so you need to consciously remind your mind of how true it is. I no longer have the past where that problem existed. I'm in a different frequency. I'm on a different wavelength. And so that's what the technique does. It's really a way to parallel world jump. And just like the story I told you in the beginning about don't trust your lying eyes because angels abound and what you see is not. You trust your frequency more than what you pick up and record through your 5 senses. And this is the real. Like I said, we're going to unpack this technique for about the next 6 or 7 transmissions because it's that potent, it's that powerful, it's that important. So I recommend playing with it. Let the technique teach you. It was given to me from, from the divine. And I haven't unpacked it all yet. But it's already producing pretty amazing things.
Are you feeling embarrassed and stuck because you can't focus or concentrate? I have a confession to make. I spent years unable to think clearly, like I was in a fog. I was going through the motions, running my companies, and I hated feeling groggy and mentally sluggish. I couldn't get ahead like this. It's no secret, the powers that be want us dumbed down. Chemicals, fluoride, our brains are under siege, and we are experiencing lower IQs. But now there's a weapon to fight back and win. Introducing DNA Evolve, a revolutionary breakthrough in a category of cognitive enhancers called nootropics. I've been using DNA Evolve and couldn't feel better. For me, it works. It feels great to get things done again and get ahead. Try a free sample for yourself at DNAEvolveSample.com. That's DNAEvolveSample.com. Supplies are limited, so go to DNAEvolveSample.com right now.